So we're actually going to do a little bit of Torah study right now for a little sneak preview of tomorrow's Torah reading. If you have a Chumash, you can turn it, and again, you don't need one, but you can turn it to page 541. 538. 538. And again, you don't need to get up and get one because I'm going to read, but if you want to follow along before the discussion part happens, you can go get one. We're in Exodus chapter 33, and we're going to pick it up at verse 12. And this is the reading that is going to be heard tomorrow, but I thought it might be nice to discuss it tonight because it's just a nice opportunity for us to have a little discussion while we have a very small group together. And it says on verse 12, Moses said to Hashem, "See, you say to me, lead this people forward, but you have not made known to me whom you will send with me. Further, you have said, I have signaled you out by name, and you have indeed gained my favor. Now, if I have truly gained your favor, pray, let me know your ways, that I may know you, and continue in your favor. Consider, too, that this nation is your people." And Hashem said, "I will go in the lead and will lighten your burden." So to summarize, for those who don't have a Chumash, Moses here is saying to Hashem that if I have truly gained your favor, and if this nation is truly your people, then you should go. You should be the one to lead us through the wilderness. Now, I want to ask, what sort of request is this? And how might you take it if somebody who was, I suppose, beneath you, like a human being, if you were God, how would you expect to take a request when someone makes a demand of you? Because normally, God makes demands of us. But here Moses is asking God to do something. What do you think would be going through God's mind when Moses says this? And Mark, if you see any comments in the chat box, please feel free to read them.
The king leads the people.
The king has to lead the people. And that essentially is what Moses is saying. He's saying, you need to lead us because you are the ruler. You are the only one who can do it. And if anybody else led us, then other people would notice and say, wait a minute, that person's not the ruler. That's not the sovereign. Where is your sovereign? You are the one. And God says, okay, I will lead. Now, what do you think Moses' reaction might have been if God said, you can't ask that of me. I said no, and I'm not changing my mind. Brenda, is that your hand?
Well, I don't know how Moses would be, but I'd be a little apprehensive.
A little.
I would be able to do as well and as what God is telling me to do, that I would mess up somehow, and I would really be in trouble.
Yes, if Moses had to lead by himself, then he would feel a little inadequate. He might mess up. He's aware that he might mess up. It might bring them to trouble. Certainly. Anybody else? In that case, we're going to move on to verse 17. And you might know this part. It's a famous part of the Torah. And Hashem said to Moses, I will also do this thing that you have asked, for you have truly gained my favor. And Moses said, oh, let me behold your presence. And God answered, I will make all my goodness pass before you, and I will proclaim before you the name Hashem, and the grace that I grant you, and the compassion that I show. But he said. You cannot see my face, for humans may not see me and live. And so Hashem said, see, there is a place near me. Station yourself on the rock as my presence passes by, and I will put you in a cleft of the rock and shield you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will take my hand away, and you will see my back, but my face must not be seen. And so now I want to ask, if you make this request, again, of God, Moses is daring to ask God, show me, show yourself to me. And God says yes, but God also says, I will be in front of you, but you cannot actually look, because you cannot live if you look. What sort of leadership is that? From the perspective of the Jews, to put it another way, who have this God that, unlike all the other nations, doesn't have any idols. This God that not only can you not see, but literally refuses to be seen in real life, not just in idol form. Could you say, as was said in the chat box, the king needs to lead us, to Jews who say, well, where is our king? What is the answer if God actually says, I'm not going to let you see me? It's the definition of having faith. Who said that? Oh, it was you, Mark. Well, thank you. That's a great one. You know, I always want to wonder what would happen if Moses opened his eyes at that moment when God passed before him. Now, according to the text, humans can't see God and live. So the easy answer would be that Moses, of course, would pass away. There are those non-believers amongst us, because there are non-believers in this world, who would say, if he opened his eyes, nothing would have happened. He would have just been all by himself. It really is the ultimate test of faith. And when you come to this mentality that is called slavery, it is such a huge mentality to be a slave. Because on the one hand, there are conditions that make you a slave. There are people above us that are telling us what to do, and there's no way out. But on the other hand, to be a slave is to feel like a slave. It means that you cannot free your mind from this idea. Even though there might be other ideas, you are stuck on this one idea. And so this idea of a God that has to be seen is something that Moses essentially had to free himself from. It was easy enough for him, it seems, because he passed the test. The Israelites had made the golden calf. Now, this was beforehand. Will it work this time? Will we be taken out of Egypt and get all the way to Israel with this God that we cannot see? Certainly, God is willing, but are we willing to follow? And that is certainly a question. When it comes time for the ultimate redemption, which is what Pesach is all about, it's the story of redemption, we have to wonder, what are the biggest things that allow someone to be redeemed? Because believe it or not, it's not just that we were freed from Egypt that makes us free. We could have been freed from Egypt and still been slaves. It all comes down to what is in our minds. And that's why the reading is going to conclude on the bottom of page 541 with the Mark.
It seems to be also with that God didn't quite trust Moses. He showed him with his hand. If he thinks he trusts Moses, you would always see his hand that he was showing. So we're going to cut the rock.
Does God trust Moses? It seems that perhaps with the rock, he put him in a position, God put Moses in a position where Moses perhaps couldn't have seen, even if Moses wanted to. That's a good point. It really is interesting, this relationship between Hashem and Moses, because on the one hand, there was no human being, according to the Torah, that God was closer to than Moses. And yet, there was still a distance between them because one is mortal and one is not. One is Hashem. And it all comes down to the midot, which would close the reading. It's on the bottom of 541 on page 4. Verse 6. Adonai, Adonai, it says, a God compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in kindness and faithfulness, extending kindness to the 1,000th generation, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin. But God does not remit all punishment. He visits the iniquity of parents upon children and children's children, upon the 3rd and 4th generations. If this is what God did for our people, then this is what we have to do for ourselves. Because in order to truly ascend from slavery into freedom, then we have to confront our demons and see that we have to forgive the things in our past in order to move on to what is coming next. We have to be slow to anger, to be less bitter about what has happened to us and more compassionate about what is to come. And the fact that we have struggled for so long just means that we have been doing our best, and that is to be commended. And so, to conclude, if we are to graduate from slavery to freedom, then we need to be able to have compassion, to have kindness, even when we cannot see freedom, or even when we can see it. We have to allow ourselves to believe it is there, or it's truly not going to be there. Shabbat shalom, moedim l'simcha.